so many gadgets. We just said we've got so many gadgets and screens because I'm testing out. We've got a new on-camera screen to test that's pointing our way so we can actually see ourselves for once.
Yeah.
And I've got an iPad now.
Russell's bought an iPad.
So I haven't shown you these examples because I wanted live reaction.
Shows me nothing.
So I'll show the viewers at the same time as showing you. And it's like, that was quite fun. It's good.
Oh, it's hilarious.
And I get to show because today we're reviewing the
Nikon 100-400 S lens.
Yes.
4.5 to 5.6.
Yes.
Yes.
Now we're fresh off fresh off using it.
Fresh from using it.
Fresh. No, there's a saying there, isn't there? Fresh from the market? No? I suppose that is quite fresh.
I didn't buy it from the market.
Stuff from the market is fresh.
It's not
but it's the saying
produce.
though, isn't it? It's like saying, you know, grass is greener on the other side.
It's going to take a while. I've used it recently.
Yes, you've used it recently, so we wanted
Last
hot
weekend.
off the heels.
Hot off the heels.
That's they see.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It's good. Right, yeah, so we're hot off the heels with this, and you've got fresh experience.
Yeah.
I've got the test where we compared it to the 4.5 prime. So how do you find the build and the construction?
Yeah, perfect. I mean, like all the other Z mount, and generally Z mount lenses, generally it's just very well made. The zoom ring is just about the right amount of friction. I think this was a lens I had to it comes out of the box, I think, with that control ring there, controlling the aperture. Yeah, had to finally switch that off because I was touching it somehow.
How do you find, because it extends the zoom, does that bother you?
Well, I mean, I prefer it with a 70-200 as an internal zoom, isn't
Yeah.
it? Which, you know, it looks better, but I haven't even, when it's on the camera and you're looking through it and doing that, you're not even seeing that it's extending. So virtually the same size and weight as the 70-200.
And this, yeah, so the three lenses are almost exactly the same weight and size.
Zooming with this, I didn't feel any difference in handling compared to the 70-200, which obviously doesn't extend.
Yeah, so it's weather sealed, of course, but I always worry with zooms if the rain got in that bit.
Oh, right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, well,
is it a...
Well, I never thought about it because, I mean, I think if it was chucking it down with rain, I wouldn't necessarily be using it. I'll perhaps think about if I was going to be out in bad weather regularly, I'd have to think about some sort of lens cover.
This year has been terrible weather.
It has, yeah. Purely if it's weatherproof, it's weatherproof, isn't it? So they've thought about that, and there's presumably a gasket in there that would protect it. I don't know.
No, but I've got live examples for you here. I can do a swap for you. I can hold your lens for you.
Okay. What am I looking at then?
So, right. So I'll put these on the screens for the viewers as well. So there's two images. One with the 100-400 and one with the 400 prime. Can you tell any difference without
cropping in? Not really.
No, not could I really. It's
no.
I mean, there's a slight difference in the background compression.
Very slightly.
Very slight. So if you go to the next slide, like 100% crop on those. Now, can you tell with sharpness which one is the prime, which one is the zoom?
I would say the one on the left is probably the prime.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
marginally.
My prime is
My prime is sharper than yours.
Sharper than yours.
Okay.
Which we initially expect, and I'm glad because I've paid a premium for the prime. So for me, I mean, on a bigger screen, I can tell that it has more of a 3D rendition. The sharpness, the colours, they're all a tiny bit more refined.
Okay, but in the real world.
Well, that's the difference. I think without cropping in,
100% crop on something that was whatever. Yeah.
Without because that's why I showed you the first one, because without cropping in, you can't tell the differences. No. But again, we're kind of nitpicking here.
Yes,
I think we are. So now we're talking about image compression, the subject separation.
Right.
So these are.
So you got your prime at 4.5 and my zoom at 5.6.
Yeah. Now
at 400mm.
I've left the description on, but you can tell if you look at the bokeh balls.
Okay, slightly different. Mine are much nicer. More because you can see the balls. What?
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's opinionated, isn't it? Because my bokeh balls are smoother and bigger, and your balls are smaller.
Russell's got bigger, smoother balls, and mine are smaller and what?
More complex.
Well, I've known that for a while.
But that's the kind of separate image, and it's interesting to see. I mean, does that bother you? I mean, does that for that? No, it doesn't bother me really.
Because I'm looking at the subject, and there's a nice background behind it, but
it does later on. There's some examples where it does matter to me.
You could say the ones with more defined balls are more interesting.
You can, It's not saying a yes or no answer to that. It's interpretation. No. They're both on the same settings.
Oh, probably because yours, the prime's background is a lot more similar to the zoom now, but still slightly. You're going to say it's slightly nicer.
Well, it's different.
It's okay, it's
which is interesting because they're the same focal length, same settings, but the bokeh is still different.
They're probably both on 5.6, I'm presuming.
Yeah. So there's the 2.8.
Ooh,
look at
that big monster that you can't carry.
I can carry it fine. The guns are building.
Yeah.
But look at the difference to that.
Yeah, I know. The one on the left is far more interesting background.
And the 2.8
isn't it?
Completely smothered it.
Boring.
There's hardly any balls coming through there.
There's no balls, and it's boring.
It's flat and completely undistracting. Now this is interesting. They're on exactly the same settings.
Really?
Same aperture.
That is okay.
The 2.8 lens is on 5.6 there.
Okay, that is.
And look at that. Yeah. Look at the difference.
Yeah.
Which even more confuses me because it's the same focal length.
Yeah, same
aperture.
Yeah.
But look at the difference.
Same wizard.
Same background.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It is interesting that.
Now we're comparing it to the 70 to 200.
Right.
And now this focal length is 200. So, without cropping in, any differences there, do you see?
Not hugely.
I think they're more or less exactly the same.
Yeah, I love the 70 to 200.
Yep.
And I was hoping that the 100, 400 would be, as good as, and I think it is.
Well, there you go. It looks exactly the same.
Those settings, yeah.
Of course, the 70 to 200 has an advantage in some ways because, next slide please, sir.
It goes to 2.8.
It goes to 2.8.
Yes.
Now you can see the difference.
Yes.
Yeah. At the wider focal ranges, it makes the subject separation.
So they're both at 100mm there.
Yeah, and this is 100mm, the widest this one goes. And now I think the background becomes really distracting and a bit too complicated for me. Let's talk about your real world example. So you did 2 brilliant case studies for it.
I did a motorsport. I went to the Goodwood Festival of Speed, which is all about cars, obviously. And I just only took this lens and then my Leica for walking around the sort of static displays. And then I did RIAT at RAF Fairford, which is a Royal International Air Tattoo. RIAT. And again, I took the same 2 cameras. So this on the Z8 and then a Leica for walking around static.
How did you find using it generally with the case of sharpness and...
Fine. I mean, I've seen online on YouTube saying, over 320mm, up to 400, not quite as sharp. I mean, in the real world, as long as your ISO was low enough, which is a whole other subject which we can get into, but absolutely perfectly sharp enough for what I wanted and what I was doing. This is not really a subject about the lens, it's just me going to an air show for the first time taking photos. I learnt a lot, and when you've got aircraft coming from opposite directions opposing each other, I was going for super fast shutter speed, and I was sort of taking for granted how good the mirrorless cameras and lenses are higher ISOs, and then you're trying to crop in at 100% to get, there is a difference, state and the obvious. And I know you really concentrate on that with your wildlife photography, taking the shutter speed down and down and down until, you're because your ISO is going down then, and you're, so you just got it fast enough to freeze the action. It would have been nice to have yours, but it wouldn't have been as practical as this. Looking at the metadata, I had loads of photos at 400mm, obviously, but also loads of photos at 100mm.
It's always that case, isn't it?
And there's so many in between. If I'd have only had 400mm, I'd have been a lot more restricted, really.
I'm saying it's quite similar to wildlife because aircraft, you backlit, you have to put the exposure comp.
Yeah, I was using often +2 or more on the exposure compensation. Yeah,
it's really hard to figure out that ISO because when I'm shooting into the sky, I'm like, oh yeah, it looks really good. But then you bring up the shadows or you crop in, you're like, oh wait a minute, the ISOs in the shadows are really high still.
Yeah.
Say if you're doing sports photography, I wouldn't be happy with the wider range subject separation of that lens. I don't think I would be. Compared to a 70 to 200 where you have that beautiful dreamy subject separation.
Yeah. 2.8, your ISO is lower. So then if you're cropping in, you can crop in better. So I'm going to Oman in December to do the World Cup 6-a-side. I'm thinking of taking the 100, 400 and the 70 to 200 just to see how I get on.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious to see, to sort of answer that question there that you posed, really.
Yeah. Okay. So some other features of the lens we have talked about is that it has its close minimum focal distance.
Yeah.
Which is amazingly different. I'll show you that. You just looked at that picture, didn't we?
With the flower.
Drag it up with the flower.
It showed me, yeah.
The two differences between 4.5 and look at the, wow, it's crazy.
Is a big difference, isn't it?
I love the minimum focal distances of lenses. I think they're so useful because, like with this lens, it is a bit annoying because it's quite far, 4.5 meters. It is a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
With that zoom lens, it's amazing feature to have actually. Were there any other photographers there using anything else which you thought might be better?
I was briefly standing next to a guy with a 180 to 600 and I thought, oh, but cameras, there's lots of people with Nikons, but a lot of the Nikons were crop, sensor, lower level ones, really. Yeah.
But do you think that the 180 to 600 would be better for an air show?
I think so. Extra reach, it's always handy, isn't it? I would have liked to have tried it side by side to see. The trouble is, it is bigger and heavier, and I think that would have been an issue wandering around with it all day long.
I guess, I mean, that brings kind of my summary of the zoom versus the prime here, that it's kind of, would you say it's versatility over a bit more refinement?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. And for me, the versatility wins.
In that situation, absolutely. I think for my case, for wildlife,
you're absolutely down to the fine details.
The comparison between the two, it's quite an easy thing. If you need longer length and a slightly, almost another stop of light, then the prime lens is the one to go for.
Yeah.
And if you want, and then it comes to teleconverters, with teleconverters, and it's kind of the case where the prime lens you can use teleconverters.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use a teleconverter on the 100 to 400.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not, as you know, I'm not a massive fan of teleconverters because I've never had really great results from them. But
you also think about there's a stop difference. So that's with the 1.4, it's a 6.3. With that, it's an f8.
Yeah,
and that's what the prime lens enables as well. It enables you to use teleconverters with a bit more success than the zoom. So the price, you got it for about...
Don't bring that up. It's a sore subject because I got it for £2,000. Used, mint condition, fine.
Which is the standard price.
Happy with that.
Yeah.
And then flipping Nikon on their refurbished site stuck it up for $1,850. So,
but the average price is about £2,000 for a used from a camera store.
Yeah.
And well, my prime, I got it for $2,500 back in 7 months ago.
Yeah.
And I was happy with that because that was used from a camera store, mint condition. It's just had a massive price drop, and now they're the same price used, £2,000.
Wow.
Which makes me cry a bit because but the 180 to 600,
I know, that's what I was just saying.
You can get that used now for about £1,500.
Yeah, which is really interesting.
So that's 25% cheaper. And
these maths are getting really good, aren't they?
We're working on it. So it's 25% cheaper, and it offers that range as well, doesn't it? And they're both that's a non-S.
50% longer.
50% longer. But also it's a non-S, but the quality seems really good.
Yeah. I'm happy with this because it's lighter and smaller, same size with 70-200.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be walking around with a lens all day long doing an event, I think the other one would kill me. So
there you go. I mean, well, that brings it all together. I mean, does it get your stamp of approval?
Definitely, yes. Thank God.
It is a great lens. It does get my stamp of approval for that. I just don't have a use for it because I don't do those events. It's like when I'm doing wedding photography, I don't use the zooms very often. Because if I use the 24 to 70 2.8, but a lot of the images at the wider end look flat.
Yeah.
And then because I had my 50 on my other lens, they just look beautiful and airy. And I like the busy backgrounds don't make so much nicer images, in my opinion. I have to say that some of those features and aspects are obviously very important to you, and quite rightly. Yeah. To the man in the street or the client and all the rest of it. Yeah. Are they going to be, I think it would. I think because I've built up a style with my event photography that I wouldn't want to go back on. And maybe they won't recognise why they like an image more, but I think it's there. There's never the right lens, is there? No. So there we go. I hope that's all made some sense. Yeah. Hope it clears up. I mean, do you guys have this lens? I mean, it's a very, very popular lens. So there we go. Anything else to add? No, I don't think so. See you. Yeah, see you. See you next time. See you next time.